Nathan Carter had faced his fair share of ridiculous battles, but nothing quite prepared him for the war over his truck. For years, he had lived peacefully in his suburban home, until Karen Thompson, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, decided to make his life miserable. Nathan was a retired military veteran who had earned his quiet life. His home was his sanctuary, and his truck, a powerful, custom-modified black Chevy Silverado, was his pride and joy. It wasn't just any truck. It was a gift from the governor himself, an appreciation for Nathan's years of service and dedication to his country. But Karen didn't care about honor or respect. She cared about power. For months, Karen had been on a one-woman crusade against Nathan. First, she complained about his flagpole, claiming it violated HOA regulations. Then she nitpicked his yard, insisting his grass was half an inch too tall. But now she had a new target, his truck. One afternoon, Nathan stepped outside to find a bright yellow violation notice taped to his windshield. Police car light notice of violation. Police car light. Infraction, unauthorized vehicle parking. Fine, $500. Action required. Remove the vehicle or risk further penalties. Nathan scoffed, crumpling the paper in his fist. Oh, come on. Across the street, standing with her clipboard, Karen smiled sweetly. The kind of smile that said, I own you now. Nathan stalked toward her. Karen, this is getting ridiculous. My truck is parked in my driveway. Karen sighed dramatically, as if speaking to a child. Nathan, the HOA has strict vehicle policies. Your truck is oversized, disruptive to the neighborhood's aesthetic, and, she paused, eyeing the blacked-out rims disapprovingly, intimidating. Nathan rubbed his temples. Karen, my driveway is not public property. I don't answer to the HOA. Karen clicked her pen and tilted her head. Oh, but you do. Section 5.2 of the HOA Charter states that all vehicles must align with community standards. No commercial or utility-style trucks allowed. Nathan took a deep breath, clenching his jaw. Karen, it's not a work truck. It's a gift. A personal vehicle. Karen smirked. Then I suggest you find a more appropriate car. Maybe something that doesn't scream military brute. Nathan's fists tightened. He wasn't one for petty fights, but Karen had been pushing her luck for months. Not happening, he said flatly. Karen shrugged. Suit yourself. But if that truck isn't gone by tomorrow morning, I'll have it towed. Nathan exhaled sharply, trying to keep his temper in check. You tow my truck, Karen, and I promise you'll regret it. Karen grinned, mistaking his warning for surrender. We'll see. Nathan watched her walk away, his pulse steady but his patience gone. Karen had no idea who she was messing with. And even better, she had no idea who the truck really belonged to. HOA's first power move. Nathan Carter wasn't the type to panic, but when dealing with Karen Thompson, he knew better than to underestimate her level of pettiness. Sure enough, the next morning, another bright yellow violation was stuck to his windshield, this time with bold red lettering. Police car light final warning. Vehicle removal notice. Police car light. Infraction. Unauthorized vehicle parking. Repeat violation. Fine, $1,000. Action required. Immediate removal of vehicle. Tow scheduled for 12 p.m. today. Nathan checked his watch. 11:45 a.m. So, she really called for a tow truck. He clenched his jaw and took a deep breath. This was war. Just as he was about to march over to Karen's house, he heard the sound of a heavy-duty tow truck pulling into the street. A grimy-looking driver stepped out, adjusting his belt as he eyed the Silverado. This the one? Karen emerged from her porch, her smug grin as wide as ever. Yes, that's it. HOA violation. Remove it immediately. Nathan strode up, his eyes locked on Karen. You're really doing this? Karen smirked, crossing her arms. Rules are rules, Nathan. The tow truck driver shrugged. Sorry, man. HOA sent in the order. I just do the hauling. Nathan gritted his teeth. You touch that truck, and you're going to have bigger problems than Karen. The driver hesitated. Look, buddy, I just need to see the title and registration. If it's legit, I'll leave. Nathan chuckled darkly. Oh, you want the owner's information? He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crisp government-issued identification card, flipping it open for the driver to see. The tow truck driver's eyes bulged. Wait, this belongs to? Nathan grinned. That's right. This truck is registered under the governor's office. Karen's smirk vanished. What? Nathan turned to her, his voice dripping with satisfaction. Karen, you just ordered the towing of a vehicle that technically belongs to the governor. You sure you want to go through with this? Karen's face went pale. That's impossible. Nathan leaned in. That oversized truck you hate so much? It was a gift, Karen. A personal thank you from the governor for my years of military service. The tow truck driver backed away slowly. Yeah, I'm not touching that. He climbed back into his cab, throwing his hands up. I don't want any part of this mess. Karen stammered, her usual confidence crumbling. This changes nothing. The HOA. Nathan pulled out his phone. You sure? Because I can make one call, and I guarantee you the governor's office won't be happy that his gift is being illegally targeted by a power-hungry HOA president. Karen opened and closed her mouth like a fish out of water. Neighbors started gathering, whispering amongst themselves. Did she really try to tow the governor's truck? She's lost it. She's finally messed with the wrong guy. Karen swallowed hard, clearly realizing she had just made a huge mistake. Nathan took a step closer. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to void that fine, you're going to cancel any further violations, and you're going to leave me, and my truck, alone. Karen's nostrils flared, her pride battling with logic. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Or should I go ahead and make that call? Karen huffed, turning on her heel. Fine. But don't think this is over, Nathan. Nathan smirked. Oh, Karen. I know it's not over. That's what makes this fun. As she stomped away, the tow truck rumbled off, leaving the Silverado exactly where it belonged. Nathan leaned against his truck, watching the neighborhood buzz with gossip. Karen had just taken her biggest loss yet. And this was only the beginning. The HOA escalates the conflict. Nathan Carter had humiliated Karen in front of the entire neighborhood, but he knew better than to think she'd back down. She wasn't the type to accept defeat. She was the type to double down. Sure enough, the very next morning, another bright red envelope was taped to his front door. Police car light, urgent notice of violation. Police car light. Infraction. Unauthorized parking. Repeat offense. Fine. $2,500. Penalty. Property lien warning. Nathan laughed out loud. A property lien? Seriously? Karen was pulling out the big guns. Across the street, he spotted her watching from her porch, arms crossed, her clipboard clutched like a weapon. Nathan held up the notice, waving it in the air. Nice try, Karen. She smirked. Enjoy it while you can, Nathan. That truck will be gone one way or another. Nathan shook his head, crumpling the paper in his fist. He had let her get away with too much already. It was time to dig deeper. That afternoon, Nathan started making calls. First, he reached out to a former HOA board member, someone who had resigned last year after clashing with Karen. The man sighed on the phone. You're dealing with classic Karen tactics. She finds people until they break. If they don't, she threatens liens, drags them into fake legal trouble, and bullies them into compliance. Nathan leaned back in his chair. And the money from these fines, where does it go? A pause. That's the thing, Nathan. It doesn't add up. The HOA is always claiming it's short on funds, but Karen approved a bunch of expensive renovations for her house last year. New driveway, new fencing, high-end landscaping. All of it paid for with HOA money. Nathan grinned. That was exactly what he needed to hear. His next move was a deep dive into the HOA's financial records. It wasn't easy. Karen had hidden her tracks well, but Nathan wasn't just some clueless homeowner. He knew how to investigate. After an hour of digging through publicly available reports, he found a major discrepancy. Karen had personally approved over $100,000 worth of community upgrades. But none of those upgrades ever happened. The HOA fees? They were going straight into Karen's pockets. Nathan leaned back, smirking. Gotcha. That evening, Nathan walked into the HOA meeting with a folder full of evidence. The room was packed. Neighbors had heard about Karen's latest stunt and were growing tired of her power trips. Karen sat at the head of the table, smug as ever. Let's begin, shall we? Nathan stood up immediately. Actually, Karen, we need to talk about HOA finances. Karen's smirk flickered. That's not on the agenda. Nathan slapped the folder onto the table. It is now. He flipped it open, revealing printouts of financial statements, expense reports, and missing transactions. I've been doing some digging, he continued, his voice calm but firm. And it turns out the HOA's budget has some serious inconsistencies. Karen's face turned red. That's nonsense. Nathan chuckled. Is it? Because I found over $100,000 worth of community upgrades that don't exist. But do you know what does exist? He slid a photo across the table. It was Karen's brand new driveway, one that had been completely renovated using HOA funds. The room fell silent. Then someone in the back muttered, "She used our money for her own house?" More voices joined in. "She scammed us. That explains the insane fines. All this time, and we thought we were funding the neighborhood." Karen stood abruptly, slamming her hands on the table. "This is an outrageous accusation. You have no proof." Nathan smiled. "Oh, I have plenty. And if you don't step down right now, I'll be sending everything to the state attorney's office." Karen froze. For the first time since this all started, she looked genuinely scared. Nathan leaned in, his voice low and dangerous. "This isn't just an HOA dispute anymore, Karen. This is fraud." Karen's hands shook. She knew she was caught. The room was dead silent, every neighbor watching, waiting. Then finally Karen collapsed into her chair. She had lost. But Nathan wasn't done yet. He straightened, turning to the entire room. "This HOA has been run like a dictatorship for far too long. Karen has been scamming all of you. The fines, the bogus violations, the threats, they were never about the rules. They were about money." Murmurs of anger and betrayal filled the room. Nathan crossed his arms. "So I say we do something about it. We take back control." A voice from the back called out, "What are you suggesting?" Nathan smirked. "We vote to remove Karen." Karen's eyes widened. "You can't." Nathan cut her off. "Actually, Karen, we can. The HOA charter allows for a special vote of no confidence. If the majority agrees, you're out." The crowd erupted in agreement. "Get rid of her. She has to go. She's been robbing us for years." Karen paled, looking around as the walls closed in. Nathan leaned in, smiling. "Enjoy your final days in charge, Karen. Because by this time next week, you're going to be just another neighbor." Karen's hands shook, but she couldn't say a word. She knew she had lost control. And Nathan? He was just getting started. The HOA oversteps and the protagonist strikes back. Karen Thompson had been cornered, but instead of accepting her fate, she did what she did best: she escalated. Nathan Carter wasn't surprised when he found yet another notice taped to his door the next morning. Police car light, urgent legal action, notice police car light. Infraction, violation of community standards. Fine, $5,000. Penalty, HOA lawsuit pending. Nathan laughed, shaking his head. She's really going for broke. But as he skimmed through the notice, his amusement faded. This wasn't just another bogus fine. Karen had actually filed a lawsuit against him for community disruption and defamation of HOA leadership. Nathan exhaled slowly, setting the notice down. She wants a war? He cracked his knuckles. Then let's give her one. Nathan made some calls. First, he reached out to his old buddy Ethan Reynolds, a state attorney with a long history of taking down HOA corruption cases. When Nathan explained the situation, Ethan chuckled. She really sued you? Oh, that's a big mistake. Think you can help? Nathan asked. Ethan laughed again. Oh, I'm going to enjoy this. Send me everything you have. Nathan grinned. Karen had no idea what was coming. A few days later, the HOA board met for an emergency hearing. Karen sat at the head of the table, her posture stiff, her expression tight. She thought she had regained control by filing the lawsuit. She was wrong. Nathan arrived with Ethan, dressed sharp in his lawyer's suit, carrying a stack of documents. Karen's face twitched when she saw him. Alan Parker, the interim board president, sighed. All right, let's address the matter of Mr. Carter's alleged violations. Karen sat up straighter. Nathan Carter has continuously defied the HOA's regulations, slandered leadership, and disrupted our peaceful community. We are seeking full legal penalties. Ethan smirked. Oh, we're going to talk about legal penalties, all right. Karen's confidence flickered. Ethan flipped open the file. Your lawsuit claims that Nathan disrupted the community and defamed the HOA. He paused, raising an eyebrow. But what's interesting is that your own bylaws don't grant you legal authority over non-public property. Karen's smile stiffened. Ethan turned to the board. What that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that Karen has been illegally issuing fines, unlawfully attempting to seize property, and abusing her power for personal financial gain. The room fell silent. Nathan leaned back, enjoying the moment. One of the board members frowned. Karen, is this true? Karen huffed, her hands clenching into fists. This is ridiculous. Nathan has been stirring up trouble since day one. Ethan held up another document. This is an official notice from the state attorney's office, confirming an active investigation into fraud and embezzlement charges linked to this HOA's funds. Karen froze. The entire room erupted in whispers. One board member paled. "Wait, we're under state investigation?" Ethan smirked. "You sure are. And Karen, you're looking at serious legal consequences." Karen's face turned beet red. Nathan stood, locking eyes with her. "You tried to take my truck. You tried to fine me into submission. And now you tried to sue me to keep your scam going." Karen gritted her teeth. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly," Nathan interrupted. "You've been robbing this community for years. You've been lining your pockets while terrorizing homeowners. But that ends today." Karen opened her mouth to argue, but before she could speak, Alan Parker stood up. "I move for an immediate vote to remove Karen Thompson as HOA president." Karen's head snapped around. "You can't do that." Nathan chuckled. "Actually, Karen, they can." Alan looked around. "All in favor?" Hands shot up across the room. "All opposed?" Karen's hand trembled in midair, but it was the only one raised. Alan nodded. The majority votes to remove Karen Thompson from her position as HOA president, effective immediately. The room burst into applause. Karen stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "This is a setup. I won't stand for this." Nathan smirked. "You don't have to. You're no longer in charge." Karen whirled around, her face red with fury, but the board members ignored her. Nathan folded his arms, watching her unravel. The reign of HOA Karen was officially over. But Nathan wasn't done yet. Karen's final, desperate move. Karen Thompson was officially removed as HOA president, but Nathan Carter knew better than to assume she'd go down quietly. For the next few days, the neighborhood buzzed with excitement. Homeowners were celebrating their newfound freedom, taking down Karen's ridiculous HOA notices, parking wherever they pleased, and even throwing a Karen's Gone barbecue in the cul-de-sac. Nathan enjoyed watching the HOA crumble, but something about Karen's silence didn't sit right. Karen was too stubborn to just walk away. And he was right. A few nights later, Nathan's security system sent him an alert. Police car light motion detected. Front driveway police car light. Nathan grabbed his phone and pulled up the camera feed. And there she was. Karen, dressed in black, hunched over his truck, clipboard in hand. Nathan laughed under his breath. "Oh, Karen, you never learn." He stepped outside, quietly approaching. Karen was too busy scribbling something down to notice him. Nathan cleared his throat. "What are you doing, Karen?" Karen jumped back, eyes wide with guilt. "And nothing." Nathan leaned in, arms crossed. "You're on my property, Karen. At midnight. What's that in your hand?" Karen hid the clipboard behind her back. It's nothing." Nathan smirked. "You sure? Because it looks like another fake violation notice." Karen's face turned red. Nathan reached out, grabbing the clipboard. Karen gasped, but it was too late. He read the paper aloud. Police car light emergency HOA violation police car light. Infraction. Unauthorized vehicle. State property dispute. Action required. Immediate removal or legal consequences. Nathan chuckled. "Wow. You're still trying to get my truck towed." Karen stammered. "Why, you're breaking the law. That truck shouldn't be here." Nathan shook his head. "Karen, you do realize the HOA is gone, right?" Karen clenched her fists. "Not for long." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Come again." Karen took a deep breath, straightening her shoulders. "I'm filing a lawsuit against the HOA board for wrongful removal. And once I'm reinstated, I'm going to reinstate all my fines, including yours." Nathan burst out laughing. "That's the dumbest thing I've ever H." One afternoon, Nathan was washing his still perfectly parked truck when a local news crew pulled up. A young reporter stepped out, mic in hand. "Mr. Carter, would you care to comment on the ongoing HOA scandal?" Nathan chuckled. "Oh, you mean Karen's downfall?" The reporter smiled. "Yes, it seems the investigation is expanding. The state is now considering a full-scale audit of HOA organizations across the county." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "You're telling me Karen didn't just destroy her own career. She might have triggered a statewide crackdown?" The reporter nodded. "That's right. Her case is setting a legal precedent against corrupt HOA management." Nathan smirked. "Well, I guess she finally made history." The camera crew laughed. Nathan turned back to his truck, patting the hood. "Tell the governor I said thanks again for the ride." The reporter chuckled, and with that, the crew packed up and left. Nathan watched them drive away, shaking his head. Karen had tried to take everything from him. Now, she had lost everything instead. Karen's personal downfall. Karen Thompson had lost her position, her power, and her reputation. But karma wasn't done with her yet. Nathan Carter had heard rumors about her situation, but he didn't truly appreciate how bad it had gotten until he spotted the moving truck in her driveway. The same house she had used as her throne, the same porch where she had smirked down at him, was now littered with cardboard boxes and packing tape. Karen was moving out. Nathan strolled over, stopping just across the street. "Packing up already?" Karen, looking exhausted and bitter, shot him a glare. "What do you want, Nathan?" Nathan leaned against his truck, smirking. "Just checking in. I thought you were suing the HOA to get your power back." Karen's face twisted with anger. "They rejected my appeal. Apparently, gross misconduct means I can't be reinstated." Nathan whistled. Who knew committing fraud, forgery, and harassment would disqualify someone from leadership? Karen's jaw clenched. "This isn't over." Nathan chuckled. "Karen, you've got lawsuits, a criminal investigation, and now you're losing your house. I think it's very much over." Karen's nostrils flared, but she didn't argue. Nathan tilted his head. "So, where are you headed?" Karen muttered something under her breath. Nathan cupped a hand behind his ear. "Didn't catch that." Karen crossed her arms, looking away. "I got a job," she finally grumbled. Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Oh, where?" Karen hesitated, but then a neighbor jogging by overheard and burst out laughing. "You mean you haven't told him?" the jogger asked. Nathan smirked. "Told me what?" The jogger grinned. "Karen's new job is working for another HOA." Nathan's eyes widened. Then he threw his head back and laughed. Karen's face burned with humiliation. Nathan shook his head. "So let me get this straight. After all this, you got demoted from dictator to pencil pusher?" Karen looked like she wanted to disappear. Nathan sighed dramatically. "Well, at least you'll still get to write fines, Karen. You know, for a real boss this time." Karen stormed into her house, slamming the door shut. Nathan just grinned. Karma had done its job. Epilogue and final mic drop. With Karen gone, the neighborhood felt different, lighter, freer, happier. People relaxed on their porches without fear of receiving a bogus violation notice. Neighbors actually talked to each other, no longer worried about spies with clipboards. And most importantly, Nathan Carter's truck was still parked in his driveway untouched. A few days after Karen's disgraceful exit, Nathan was enjoying his morning coffee on the porch when one of his neighbors walked up, grinning. "Hey, Nathan," the man said, handing him a piece of paper. Nathan unfolded it, raising an eyebrow. "Police car light violation notice, police car light. Infraction, being too awesome. Fine. 1 case of beer, payable to your grateful neighbors." Nathan laughed. The neighbor smirked. "We figured since the HOA's gone, someone's got to keep you in line." Nathan chuckled, shaking his head. "Well, at least this one's fair." He tore up the fake fine, clapped his neighbor on the back, and leaned against his truck. The neighborhood was finally at peace. And Karen? She was just another bad memory.